doing, I promised you your diagrams, you have them. Also, what I want you to do, all the questions in the booklet, in fact, the questions on excretion, we have to answer that together. That is from a matric exam. I need you to get used to the types of questions you're going to be faced with in a few weeks' time. We're not going to say matric is next year. It's a few weeks' time. So what I want to do today is excretion, as promised, very, very important. And the last structure that we must do the adaptation of is the Malpighian body. Okay. So remember, in your exam, you could be asked, how is the alveolus structurally suited for its function? Or how is the alveolus an efficient gases exchange surface area? How is the villus an efficient absorptive surface area? And now the last one. How is the Malpighian body an efficient filtration area? Because that is the function of the Malpighian body. Pressure filtration, ultrafiltration. So, again, I promised you I will send you that diagram with the adaptation. So all I want you to do is try to answer and guess if you don't know the answer. But remember, we're not going to use the word it. Okay. The structure that I'm drawing, what is the structure called? Bowmans Capsule. Bowmans Capsule is with a capital letter. Because Bowman, he named it after himself. Okay, so that's the Bowmans Capsule. Now, come, I don't see many of you focusing. Why are you nervous? I'm in front of the camera. They're just looking at your head, right? So, Bowmans Capsule, cup-shaped, increase the surface area for more filtration, for more substances to be filtered. Now, I just jumped to pressure filtration because I'm taking it for granted you know the structure, the diagram of the excretory system, you know the macroscopic structure. So let's quickly talk, let's revise. What is the definition for excretion? Let's just take a time out and let's discuss, revise. Excretion. Mandisa? Yes, the removal of metabolic waste from the body. Metabolic waste, metabolism comes from the word, it's metabolism. I'm nervous, sorry. Metabolism. All the chemical reactions that take place in your body, in your cells. And during these processes, there are wastes that are produced. And if these wastes stay in your cells, these wastes will toxify your body, will poison your cells. So that is what the excretory system does. Gets rid of the metabolic wastes. Can somebody name some of the wastes? Quickly. One that you're busy releasing right now. Okay. So it's not, the waste is actually water, excess water. Now listen, it's excess water. Your body is only going to remove the excess water. Use what it needs and only excess water is removed. Excess salts. What you're busy exhaling right now? Carbon dioxide. Right. And then, of course, urea and the uric acid. Now, you have to say for excretion, metabolic wastes. You have to say removal of metabolic waste. That word must be in your definition. Okay. Now, there are three parts of the functioning of the nephron. If you remember, the first one is pressure filtration or ultrafiltration. The second important function is tubular reabsorption. And the last one is tubular excretion. So what I'm doing is the role of the Malpighian body. And the Malpighian body is suited, has to be structurally suited for pressure filtration. I already did the first one, which is the Bowmans Capsule. Cup-shaped to increase surface area, so more substances are filtered. That's what the kidney does. Blood flows to the kidney, and the kidney has to filter the blood. That means blood with good substances and bad substances flow to the kidney, and the kidney has to separate the good substances from the bad substances, the wastes. The wastes remain in the kidney, and the good substances that you need return back to the heart. So that's what filter means. And filtration is very, very important. Today I have a lot of lovely questions to ask you. And the only reward for you is no sweets, but I'll give you a clap. Okay. So that is the Bowmans Capsule. Now, when we're drawing the blood, the arterial, the afferent arteriole. I say it like how I'm going to pronounce it. Afferent. A comes first. A is the first letter in the alphabet. And the thinner one, efferent. Efferent, E for exiting. Now, the coil structure is the glomerulus. Yes, I know my label lines are not parallel. Together, the glomerulus and the Bowmans capsule makes up the Malpighian body. I told you yesterday, anything that's stacked or coiled or folded in life science, the function is for increasing surface area. What is the function of the Malpighian body of the glomerulus? Filtration. The glomerulus is coiled to increase surface area, so more substances are filtered. Increase surface area for filtration. You can shorten it. Now, the afferent arteriole is wider in diameter compared to the efferent arteriole. Can anybody give me a reason why? Yes? Increase the pressure. So because of that, there's a pressure that builds up here. And that pressure is responsible for filtering the substances. So only the small substances will be allowed to enter the Bowmans capsule. The larger substances will not be allowed to enter because they are very special cells that line the Bowmans capsule. Do you remember the names of these cells? Tiffany, you shaking your head? Has holes in them. That's not the name of it. Yeah. Somebody said? Podocytes. Good. Podocytes have slit pores, which is also very good for filtration. Between the pores, the substances that are small enough are allowed to be filtered. Now, also the glomerulus has a thin layer of cells with pores to also aid in filtration. You need a lot of things to help. All these structures have to be suited for filtration. Now, name some of the substances in the blood that will be found in the afferent arteriole. And I think there's so many of us here, each one can name. Water. We're going in order. Everybody will get a chance to answer. Don't worry. And if you want to turn around and wave at mommy, you can. It's mineral salts, right? A complete answer, mineral salts. Okay, I was going to write AA, but vitamins. You're getting excited because all the easy ones you guys are getting. Give everybody else a chance. You gave me two answers. Urea, uric acid. Red blood cells. I'm just going to write RBC. Hormones. I'm trying to fit everything on one board. Take a guess. Your friends are not giving you the answers. You can say white blood cells, platelets, proteins. You can carry on. What else do we leave out? Glucose we left out. Yes, who's mamming me? Fats, 3 fatty acids and a glycerol. Now, all these substances are in the blood, flowing towards the glomerulus. And only the small substances will be allowed to enter this Bowmans capsule. When the substances enter the Bowmans capsule, the substances are called the filtrate. Right. What substances are small enough to enter the Bowmans capsule? Okay, I'm writing AA, right? Urea, uric acid. It's going to be glucose, water, vitamins, mineral salts. Now, all the other substances you will never find. Okay, not you will never find. Under normal conditions, if your kidneys are functioning normally, you will not find red blood cells, white blood cells, proteins. These substances are too big. If you have a kidney infection, then one of the structures that are affected is the malphizian body, where these big substances obviously enter, and obviously we find it in the urine. So under normal conditions, you will not find red blood cells, white blood cells, and proteins. They are too big. And we need this pressure. We need the pressure from the glomerulus. But why is it? Okay, I'll ask you the question at the end when you forgot all your work, right? So, all these substances now enter the Bowmans capsule and are the filtrate. Now that is pressure filtration. Now let's look at the structural suitability. Bowmans capsule, cup-shaped, increases surface area for filtration. Afferent arteriole is wider in diameter than the efferent arteriole, and that is what causes the pressure to build up and causes the substances to be filtered. Glomerulus is coiled, increases surface area for more filtration. The thin layer of podocytes or cells that line the Bowmans capsule, podocytes with slit pores, also aid in filtration. The glomerulus has a thin layer of cells with pores, also aids in filtration. And that, when you talk about the structure, you tell us how it helps with filtration. And then most of the time you will see single layer of cells that line the blood vessels, single layer of cells that line the Bowmans capsule. How does a single layer help with filtration? Not easy. Faster filtration. Rapid. Remember, rapid. You just throw that word back at me. If you have 20 layers, it's still going to be filtered. But one layer, faster filtration. Okay, so that is now the structural suitability of the malphizian body. And I promise you don't have to write anything today. You will get that diagram. I will draw that for you, write the adaptations, and send it out for you. Okay, so that is a malphizian body. That's very, very important. Most likely, most teachers will ask this. Okay, most teachers will ask this. And I'm still waiting for my one question. I'll wait for you to get tired, which is about 1:30. Then I'll ask you that question. Okay, now, so pressure filtration. Now, I want to talk about, yes, we know about tubular reabsorption. Right, I want to do this because it's a little bit challenging. In grade 10, you learned transport. Yes. You learned active transport and you learned passive transport. And tubular reabsorption, amino acids and glucose are absorbed by active transport. Who can give me a definition of active transport? Yes. Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? What's against a concentration gradient? Yes. When substances move from a low concentration to a high concentration. Right. So we must know that. Can I draw a simple diagram for you to remember this? You girls remember it? I hope so. Even if you don't know, what must you say? Yes, we remember. Ooh. My assistant, this chalkboard looks very bad here. Huh? I don't know. Right. Most of us know concentration brackets. Most of us do science, I hope. If you didn't know, that bracket means concentration. Fine. Now, I do this because our girls, they go for EEC, they go for camp. And in the past, there used to be a mountain there to climb. So, yes, a big mountain there to climb, right? So I say, going up the hill takes a lot of energy. Hey, some of you might not make it. You might need a carrier. And you need lots and lots of energy. And let me show you how I draw my little person. I'm in a girls' school. There's a girl. Right. So now she's going to be walking from the bottom to the top. She's going to need a lot of energy. She's going to need a carrier. And that is what active transport is. What? When substances move from a low concentration to a higher concentration, you need a carrier and an energy. The carrier you learnt in grade 10 is usually the protein. But once you're at the top of the mountain, it's easy. You sit down and you slide. You don't need no energy and no carrier. So that is passive transport. When a substance moves from a high concentration to a low concentration, no energy is required, no carrier. Now, because you are in grade 11 and you're going to grade 12, they're not going to say low to a high. They're going to say against a concentration gradient, along a concentration gradient. Okay, so that's an easier way for you to remember active and passive transport. Now, amino acids and glucose are very, very important. There's more amino acids and glucose in your blood, less in your kidneys, in your renal tubules. So, those substances move from a low concentration to a high concentration. The cuboidal epithelium in the renal tubules will have lots of microvilli and lots of mitochondria for the active transport. So just make sure we know the active transport. Right. Because I think most of the learners, if they don't know tubular reabsorption, it is the active transport that's giving them problems. If you want to, I can draw a better one of this on the group. Yes? Neater one. Somebody will have to remind me. Right. Okay. So, active transport. Any other questions? Any other difficulties? I want to move on to ADH now, aldosterone, and pH. Okay. Which you need for grade 12 and 11. Yes, Tiffany? Sorry? Yes, in the proximal. Look at my notes. There's a diagram there that has all the functionings of the kidney. Hi, how are you? No, it's fine. Yeah, please. Page 43. Found it, Tiffany? First part, labeled pressure filtration. Second part, tubular reabsorption. Then tubular secretion. Okay? Or tubular excretion. All of it on page 43, the whole functioning of the kidney. You all have it in your booklets? Yes. 46. Okay, mine is 43. Right. So. Oh my goodness. 46. 46. 46. Some books have 44. Mine says 43. So we'll, yeah. As long as we all have it. Different special numbers, no problem. Just remember, if you have it, don't leave it now. You must study it. Right. Now, antidiuretic hormone. Like I said yesterday, we cannot use abbreviations in life science. No ATP. Right. ADH, antidiuretic hormone. What produces antidiuretic hormone? Don't all of you lift up your hands at once. Yes, this is what gets the matrix as well. Hypothalamus produces ADH, sends the ADH to the pituitary gland to be stored until ready to be secreted. So please make sure you know that. ADH is produced by the hypothalamus and secreted by the pituitary gland. Yeah, it says there, ADH. But I'm going to draw it on the board in any case, yeah. Is someone asking me how you spell antidiuretic hormone?
I know how to spell it.
Okay. Hypothalamus. You must say it like how you're going to spell it. Hypo, how do we all spell hypo? H-Y-P-O. Ta, T-H-A. La, L-A. And mus, M-U-S. Remember in the matric exam, we are going to sound out that word. So you also get used to pronouncing it properly, and you will sound it out and write it. Now, ADH. produced by the hypothalamus, secreted by the pituitary gland. I'm just drawing, this is the renal tubules. Yes, I know you know the proper names for it. Loop of Henle, proximal convoluted tubule, distal convoluted tubule. In matric, you can say renal tubules as well. On a hot day, which is today, but you are fine. You have lots of water here. On a hot day, we perspire a lot. Sweat a lot. Okay, let me speak your language. We sweat a lot, like me right now. Right? We sweat a lot, and we're very active. And sometimes when you are playing a sport, you don't drink as much water. So the amount of water you're taking in is not equal to the amount of water that you are losing. So, in your blood, there is a low amount of water. Now, there are osmoreceptors in your body that pick up that there's very little water in your blood. That's very, very dangerous. Before I ask you why and teach you about ADH, why is water so important? Why is it that we can go without food for 2 weeks, but we cannot survive without water for more than 2 days? Yes, that's a question I will ask.
Ma'am, the chemical reactions in your body require water.
Very, very good. All the chemical reactions in your cells need water. So, what controls the chemical reactions? Enzymes. And enzymes can also only function in the presence of water. Okay, grade 10 work. Right, so water is very, very important. Now, osmoreceptors pick up that there's not enough water. Sends a message to the pituitary gland to secrete more ADH. Now, we'll use the abbreviation because I cannot fit the whole word in there. Because here in the renal tubules, you have lots of water. The water got filtered into the Bowmans capsules, part of the filtrate. So, when you're talking about hormones, aldosterone and ADH, you have to use the word more and less. You have to. Right. So, the pituitary gland secretes more ADH, and ADH is now secreted in the renal tubules. And the ADH causes the renal tubules to be more permeable to water, so that this water now leaves the renal tubules and goes into your blood. What will happen to the amount of water in your blood? Your blood volume will increase. But this is the collecting duct. Any substance that goes there, it's too late, it's already urine. Now, the water has moved out of the renal tubule, so your urine will have less water. There's a word for that. Your urine will be concentrated. So that is what happens on a hot day with ADH. Very, very important. See, matric, what they do is they give you a scenario. They tell you, Sandy was walking in the desert. She was dehydrating for 2 days. And then she was dizzy. She fell down. I'm actually giving you the essay topic from March 2017, by the way, paper 1. And then she lost balance. Explain the changes that took place in her body to regulate the amount of water in her body. And for the first time, they wanted 2 hormones, antidiuretic hormone and aldosterone. Okay. So please make sure when you have time, go to that March 2017, paper 1, and have a look at it. So if they ask you from now, what 2 hormones are responsible for osmoregulation? What is osmoregulation? Controls the amount of water in your body. ADH, antidiuretic hormone, and aldosterone. I will still do this afterwards. Now, cold day. The exact opposite happens on a cold day. Okay, so these diagrams are all in your notes, so I don't want you to write anything. On a cold day, we still perspire. We just perspire less. You sweat less. You're less active. you don't lose as much water. And so, in your blood, the blood volume will be high. The osmoreceptors pick up that the blood volume is high, there's enough water in your blood. Sends a message to the pituitary gland to secrete less ADH. There's less ADH in the renal tubules, it causes the renal tubules to become less permeable to water. Less water leaves and goes into your blood, and it causes more water to be lost in the urine. If there's more water in your urine, how do you describe that? Yes, diluted. Please don't say less concentrated. Yes, diluted. Okay, if you know the word hypertonic and hypotonic, it's fine. But for me, I prefer concentrated. You know, with Oros juice, you put lots of Oros and it becomes very concentrated. If you put 1 cap of Oros, it's too little. Right, so diluted. Right, so remember those words. Concentrated and diluted is easier. That is antidiuretic hormone. Please, very, very important. Okay, so that is the first hormone that is responsible for osmoregulation. Aldosterone is a hormone that's secreted by the adrenal gland. So on your kidney is the adrenal gland. And the adrenal gland secretes 2 hormones, aldosterone and adrenaline. So you're going to learn adrenaline next year. But now you have to learn aldosterone, which you know controls the amount of, now watch this, you're not allowed to use the word salt anymore in the matric exam. You have to use the correct word, sodium chloride. Okay, so you'll just make notes of this. But maybe your teachers are also keeping track with it and they will only accept sodium chloride. Now, sodium chloride, salt. Why is salt so important in the body? Yes. Okay, it controls osmotic potential. Yes, no problem. Besides that?
Controls the blood pressure.
Controls blood pressure. And blood pressure, we learnt in grade 10, is the pressure at which the heart pumps blood, the oxygenated blood to every cell. But we also learned that too much sodium chloride causes high blood pressure. Too little causes low blood pressure. Also in grade 10, you learned sodium is very important for the functioning of the muscles and the nervous system. So salt is very, very important. Sodium chloride is very, very important. Right, so now aldosterone is exactly the same as ADH, except you're going to replace the word water with sodium chloride. It's exactly the same. You're getting bored?
No.
Okay, because I'll make you erase this. It'll keep you active. I still didn't forget that question, eh? Must ask it. He says I must ask it. All right, so let me ask it. So why, and you know what, in school I always tell the girls, if you can answer this difficult question, I'll give you the whole lesson free, because I know they won't get it right, so, but they get it right and then then I have to keep my promise. Why is it when the heart fails, the kidney fails as well? Yes?
The heart is responsible for creating pressure in the blood.
Yeah, well, carry on.
And due to the heart failing, there's less pressure. The blood has less pressure, and therefore glomerular filtration doesn't occur because the pressure in the afferent arteriole is less, and that causes less.
You're just going to go around in circles. You know you were right till there. So basically, yes, the heart is responsible for the pressure. That pressure, when the heart is pumping blood pressure, that same pressure is needed for pressure filtration. So when the heart fails, the kidney fails at the same time. Okay, so that's a nice question to ask, but now that I've already told you, you might not get it. That's what I got from a higher grade book, the 2005 higher grade book. I got another one for you. Why do desert animals have a longer loop of Henle? Oh, that's easy. That's easy. It could be anything. Any desert animal. They will have a longer loop of Henle. What's the function of the loop of Henle? Absorption of water. The longer the loop of Henle, the more water is absorbed. So, that's how the desert animal conserves water. Okay, so those are the 2 questions I had. I'll think of more. Right. We're talking about aldosterone. Controls the amount of sodium in the body. So, sodium chloride. If there is too much of sodium chloride in your blood, a message is picked up by chemoreceptors, and it sends a message to the adrenal gland to secrete less aldosterone. And if there's less aldosterone secreted in the renal tubules will become less permeable to sodium, because remember, in this renal tubules is sodium. Less sodium leaves the renal tubules and goes into the blood, right? And what will happen is the urine will have more sodium chloride, so your urine will be more concentrated. Okay. And the exact opposite, is it fine if I don't explain? Because you look like you're getting bored. So now it's time to bring out the matric questions. Yes, Tiffany? No, it doesn't have to be. No. High blood pressure, low blood pressure. Enough sodium in your body, less sodium in your body. Okay. Yes. So food intake. Yes. So when you take too much, what foods has the most amount of sodium chloride? Salt. Junk food. I'm going to have McDonald's after this. You know, when you look at those chips, you can actually see the salt on it. You must know. How do you make food taste nice? You put salt on it. So that's how you increase the salt. How do you decrease salt? Yes, unfortunately, that could be genetic as well. Or electrolytes, lack of electrolytes as well. It could be caused by a virus, the gastrovirus, right? Bacteria, food poisoning, right? But it's the food that we take in, right? So, and that you learned in grade 10, healthy diets. Now, you think you're ready to answer the questions? Yes, because now we're just going to push you straight into grade 12 and let's see if you can answer them. Don't worry, they're still easy ones. I saved the worst ones for next year for you, right? So, I'll tell you what page, but we don't have the same pages, so. Yes, my diagram, it is 56, looks like this. What page, Chris?
56.
56. Let us see. I did give you homework yesterday to answer all the questions. May I assume that all the homework is done? Oh yes, you wrote with invisible ink. Yes.
It's on my phone.
Yes. You smiling. You won't be smiling tomorrow on the group when the no answers appear for you. And maybe your teacher will have all these answers all these questions in your exam paper. Right. Tired today, Jose? Tired today? Okay. It's not an exciting lesson today. Define homeostasis. We did this yesterday. Let's go. Are we going to answer it as a class? To maintain a constant internal environment. You did your homework? No. Oh, you did your homework? Yes, ma'am. You're really, really making your school proud, eh? You're not writing it down. Oh, you wrote it in your book? No. Let's write it on there. It says page 4. Yeah, that's one. Right. Give the name of the following. Now, I want you to think very carefully about this. Organ A. Here we're talking about homeostatic mechanism to regulate the concentration of salts in the body. Which organ is responsible for controlling the amount of salt in the body? We just did this. And remember, we're answering on our own now. Right. So you must answer it. You must answer it first, and then I'll ask you for the question. I'll ask you to answer. You smiling? Why? I'm smiling inside because the answer's on the board. Organ A, we all have figured out, is the kidney. Okay. Gland B, the gland that secretes the hormone is adrenal gland. It's like renal means kidney, ad means on top. We all know the hormone that controls the amount of salt. We all know it as aldosterone. And then they ask you, describe the response by the effector at D. Now, at D, what has happened? There's a low amount of salt. Can you see if you read the whole flow chart? So what must you say? That the walls of the renal tubules become more permeable. The walls of the renal tubules become more permeable, allowing a greater reabsorption of sodium into the blood.
The walls of the renal tubules become
More permeable to sodium. Okay, become more permeable, allowing a greater reabsorption of sodium into the blood. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I write with pencil. I need a magnifying glass to see handwriting. Yes, come. Huh? She asked me for my water and I asked her for my tissue. I'm teasing you. She wants tissue. Here's my tissue. You got it? Okay, all right. Next question. As you look, Feb, March 2015. I want you to answer it quickly, 5 minutes. Only 7 marks, so it should take you 5 minutes. Answer on your own and then we will discuss. I will give you the answers. It's this one. I think it's the next page. Yes. No, no, no. No abbreviations, remember? No abbreviations. Full words. Sound the hormone out to get the spelling right. Handwriting, is that your neat handwriting?
I don't have a neat handwriting, ma'am.
But is that your handwriting?
Yes,
Oh
ma'am.
my goodness, let me see if I can read it. You become a doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you can see it. See, I can't see that word there.
Oh, yeah, I spelled it wrong.
Yeah. You were trying to write permeable.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. pH. Don't worry, there's nothing else here now. There's nothing else now. Remember, look at the last question. It's 4 marks. So you must only write about 4 sentences, eh? Don't go write half a page. We have to now look at the marks, write the answer. Look at the mark, write the answer. Because in a few weeks' time, you will be in grade 12. And that's what's going to happen, especially for life science. So you must think now how you're going to put that answer in 4 sentences. Right. Can I mark your work? Yes, right. Hormone X, you can see, I'm not sure if you know this, they talk about quickly, the diagram below represents one part of the negative feedback mechanism that occurs when a person is dehydrated. Decrease in blood volume as a result of excessive loss of water detected by the brain. The hypothalamus is a part of the brain. Okay, so immediately when you saw that diagram, the hormone that is released, X, is antidiuretic hormone. Then they asked, what is the endocrine gland that secretes hormone X? Pituitary gland. Please learn how to spell pituitary gland. Yes. See, you didn't learn this. So endocrine gland, you're going to learn next year. You get 2 types of glands. Endocrine gland is a gland that secretes hormones directly into the blood. And an exocrine gland is a gland that has a duct where the hormone travels via the duct. Okay. And so yesterday you learned an organ. The pancreas is both exocrine and endocrine. Okay. And that you can still get tested on it this year as well. Okay. Yeah.
So, ma'am, isn't B the hypothalamus? Because doesn't the pituitary gland
Where's B? Where are you looking at B?
This one, ma'am.
Yes, they're asking the endocrine gland that secretes the pituitary gland. Hypothalamus produces.
Okay.
Pituitary gland secretes. And the target organ is the kidney. Target organ, kidney. Then they ask, describe the negative feedback response that occurs when a person is dehydrated after it has been detected by the brain. An increase in antidiuretic hormone causes the walls of the renal tubule to become more permeable to water. More water is reabsorbed. 4 points. So, let me read it again. An increase in antidiuretic hormone causes the walls of the renal tubules to become more permeable to water. More water is reabsorbed. Everybody signed. So remember, this is still a matric question, but remember, we might not have time. Endocrine system we do towards the end of the term 3. So teachers might go very quick with this if they don't have time, because they know we've done it in grade 11. Right, so that was the excretory system. Most importantly, the antidiuretic hormone and aldosterone. Very, very important. Now, I'm going to quickly ask you a question before we have a short break. A nice question that your teachers can ask you is kidney transplant versus dialysis. Could be a 6-mark question. Right? Could be an essay. I've seen it as an essay 1 year. Okay. Now we know when you have kidney infections, right, and too many kidney infections, and you don't look after our kidney, we can lead to kidney failure. Now, you are going to choose between, they can give you a scenario that your friend has kidney failure, and she has been asked to either decide between a transplant or dialysis. Well, of course, she has to go on dialysis. Now, what is your advantages versus, what's your views on kidney transplant versus dialysis? You look shocked to me. We do know about dialysis. Yes.
Dialysis is very expensive and time-consuming to prepare when a conjugal object on
Okay.
and kidney transplant, there isn't a lot of kidneys available.
So what you are not giving us no hope here, eh?
Yeah.
If my friend needs a kidney transplant or dialysis, what are you trying to tell my friend?
You need to go for the kidney transplant.
There is another solution to this. You know what's the solution?
Amputation at the neck.
Oh my goodness. You're sitting here in the future of the country. Oh, that's sad. One is saying amputation from the body here.
No, I said from the neck.
From the neck. He's saying the other option is death. I'd love to mark your... Be laughing. What? What would you do? That's a question in your paper. Yes. Kidney transplant, the waiting list is 5 years long.
But with dialysis, it's a limited birth rate, and it might not be in the...
So you're going to tell my friend, just wait, just die. Guys, you're not very hopeful. You're not very hopeful. So you have to, I'm forcing you now, you have to choose one. So you are very, very negative right now, and if I'm marking your paper, you're not going to, you get 0 out of 6. Yes.
Putting your name down for a kidney transplant and in the meantime,
Going for dialysis, yes. Now, do you know there's 2 types of dialysis? Okay, you're all saying yes. But your answers you're giving me are not telling me you know what the other type of dialysis is. There is hemodialysis, where you go to the hospital and you get connected to a machine, a very, very big machine. And you sit there, one tube goes into the artery, the other in the vein, and your blood flows through this machine. And the machine cleans your blood, acts as the kidney. And then the blood flows back. But while your blood is flowing to this machine, your blood is leaving your body, so there's a risk of organ failure. Right? You have to go for that. Now, depending on the amount of, the percentage of your kidney, how much is still working, or if it's completely failed. They will tell you how many times you have to go for it. Maybe 4 to 5 times a week, and you have to sit there for about 5 to 6 hours. But like she said, there are breadwinners out there. And then there's another type of dialysis, peritoneal dialysis. Yes, we all should have heard about that, where they make the incision and a catheter is put inside and you use the peritoneum. It's a membrane of your abdomen to filter your blood. And then every day you will have to remove the filtrate, you'll have to move the fluid and inject more. And that's perfect for people who are breadwinners. But eventually, they cannot go on that forever. Dialysis is not the solution. Kidney transplant, 5 years. How many of you are organ donors here? You're going to be an organ donor. Look around at the amount of hands. So we're saying very nicely, put your name on the organ donor list, which might be just 10 people. No, I don't want to be an organ donor. My job is to make sure I educate the future. No, I'm not. And I'm honest. I still know that I don't want to. I don't want to be an organ donor. Because there's lots of research has been done. That some people say that when you donate an organ, people have flashbacks of that person's life. Yes. That, you see, then there's been a head transplant that has just been done, just 3 years ago. I want to know when that man wakes up, who is he going to be, the head or he's going to be the body? So I'm waiting to see the Science magazine to see what has happened. Right, so I won't be an organ donor, but Kamo, I am educating the future of the country. That's my role. What are you doing? You're just going to ignore what I have to say. All right. Yes.
And there's new research in America on when they're using...
Oh, why are you saying America? Which country you live in?
Africa.
No, there's a cure to this. It's called therapeutic cloning. It's stem cells. You take people's stem cells and in 2 days you grow their own organ. Yes, you should have learned this in grade 10. Therapeutic cloning. Right. So, and again, the Americans have done that. The Americans they grow organs for their people. In Boston University, the top university that practices genetics, their children had bladder problems. It's fine. They just grew their children bladders and gave it to them. Yes. So their people have heart problems. There's no waiting list, which is 5 years long with maybe 5 people. They grow their own organs. That is genetics, the field. They can cure. They've just cured osteoarthritis, where you inject cells that grow cartilage for people. And I can go on and on because they know, the girls know that's my favorite. That is my passion, to research genetics. Right.
Yeah, so you're saying kidneys, you wait 5 years.
No, listen. The waiting list is 5 years long. Okay. So it doesn't mean in 5 years you're going to get the kidney.
But between kidney and dialysis, and like the time period, dialysis is about
Yeah, no, dialysis is still you. Her life might not be that long. Okay, Tiffany, it might not. That's why when you have to look after your kidneys. You have to. That's exactly what your teacher we should have enlightened you on. That the kidneys are very, very important. Especially in this country, nobody wants to go into genetics. We're all going to become engineers and CAs, but nobody wants to go into genetics. And if we need these organs, guess where we're going to have to go? To America to make these organs, and we're going to have to pay that money. But if the people go into the field in our country, it will become cheaper for us. And I'm actually shocked that you're sitting here and you don't know so much about genetics. It's actually sad. We can sit and we can say, yes, America, America, America. What about South Africa? Can also be just as great. Unfortunately, before you ask me what you need for genetics, of course you need maths and science. Everything that's difficult, it's going to require maths and science. You need it. And you can go into many different fields. You can go into plant genetics. You can go into animal genetics. And then human genetics. Yes, I know there are religious objections. So, but the plant? Most of your food that you are eating right now, 9% of your food is genetically modified. But you're fine with eating the food. Just don't want to grow the organs. It's fine. Because what has happened is we're in a 5-year-long drought. Most of us know that. And your textbook that you're busy using says that. The scientists have predicted that. Now, the soil is very, very dry. So how we wanted to make food, we need food to feed the growing population. So they genetically modified the seeds and made the seeds drought resistant. That's genetics. So whether you don't want to go into a field, you're eating the food. 9% of our food. Only thing is we don't have a law to say that the food is genetically modified. It doesn't have to be on the label. But I know most of the country. Woolies puts it. I know America, when you go there overseas, when you taste fruits, sometimes the fruits don't taste like real fruit, it tastes like wax. It's because it's genetically modified. At the end of the year, you might get a square watermelon. How do you think that came about? Red oranges. It's genetics. Yes. So these are genetics, taking genes, manipulating the DNA to create characteristics that we want. Did you just see in June, scientists have grown meat? Meat in a bag.
Oh, anything can happen these days.
Yes, because scientists have proven that if the water shortage carries on, there's no water, there's not going to be any crop, no maize, no grass, no meat. So they're trying to grow the meat in a sack. I would love to know how it tastes. And then I only read the Times magazine because I think the Times magazine is quite amazing. Times magazine says in a few years' time, no country is going to go to war for oil. They're going to go to war for water. And the Times magazine says that if we want a lot of protein and there's no more food, guess what our source of protein is going to be? Cockroaches. Saute them. Yeah, that's what. Yes. So I have to tell you this. My job is easy, to educate the future of the country. The country future does not want to listen to me, as long as I know I did my job. The job is to inspire you to fix up all the problems. Last year, the Zimbabwean scientists claimed it on news that they have solved their water crisis. What does that mean? They probably found a way to make water, maybe, but they'll keep it on the down low because we're not going to share it with other people because you can sell that. Also, when you go on the internet and you want to Google how therapeutic cloning takes place, you will not find that information. You will not. In fact, in America, genetics is at 15 years. When you want to go into the field of genetics, there are genetics colleges that takes you at 15 years and teaches you. Because that is the way of the world. That's the future. With genetics, you can cure any disease. Just not South Africa. It's an amazing, amazing field. You will learn that next year, therapeutic cloning, you will learn reproductive cloning and genetic engineering. Already genetic engineering is happening here, modification. 9% of our food is genetically engineered. Right? If you have problems, go and fix up all the problems with the plants. Go into plant genetics, animal genetics. Nobody's saying go into human genetics. We know many of us have objections. So Plant genetics? It's too boring. It's at least a nice job to sit in a lab and research plants. Okay. What's the other choice? The other choice is starve. That's what's going to happen, because that's part of human impact on the environment. Genetically modified food has led to a loss of biodiversity. But because the population is growing so fast, we have to feed them. Now, it's very easy for us to sit here and criticize. The population is growing, we need to feed them. We have to worry about now, not the long-term effects. Feed the people now. And then we worry about the long-term effects. So the other thing is starving. And already still with genetic modification, there's so many people in South Africa that face poverty. So you should think. You're going to be writing your big exam, and you should think about going into genetics. Genetics is one of the smallest fields, but can make the biggest difference. Biggest difference. Why is it that medication is so expensive? I mean, when swine flu hit many, many years ago, you may have just been babies or in primary school. The Americans took 6 months to come up with a vaccine. Why must it be Americans? You can also just do that. You must just be willing to sacrifice, go do maths, do science, and do these courses. We have to. Why, Kama, you don't do science? So that dream, no, don't stress. You can pick up matric and grade 8, 10, 11, and 12 science in the first 3 months, university. If you really want something, you can do it. So,
if you're saying genetic coding is like amazing, and it can cure a lot of things, why are people still with cancer and there's no cure for AIDS? And AIDS is South Africa. Yeah, HIV.
okay, so there is another. Apparently, yes, apparently. Tiffany, have you heard about nanotechnology? No. The Americans have already cured, they're in the second clinical trial for liver cancer and lung cancer. Yes, nanotechnology. We have also cured in clinical trials TB with nanotechnology. But have you heard of nanotechnology until now? Some of you read it and then we don't worry about it. But again, it's the Americans. For that field, you need engineering. You need engineering. So it's obviously maths and science. So yes, there are cures out there. But yes, it is unfortunately the Americans that are the forefront of those trials. We can also be there. You must be willing to go into that field. Scientists have predicted, and Times Magazine have predicted, in the next 5 years, genetics is going to be the biggest field in the world. Bigger than medicine, CA. It's an amazing field. You can cure any condition.
Ma'am, do you think in the next decade, ma'am, AIDS will be cured?
That you cannot say. And now when you learned HIV, you know we have 2 types of HIV now. Hey? We have one that's resistant to the ARVs as well. Right. So it has made it things tough for us because of the medication, the lack of availability of medication. But that's fine. All you need is somebody to go and study the virus and come up with medication. There's the other field, immunology. You never knew all of this. Please let us just take our heads, let us now become open-minded. And let us, yes, you can make this country great if each one of you do the fields that we need. That's what you should be researching. Not the field that makes the most money, the fields that we need. Yes, and then we can also be competing. Then people will say, yes, South Africa, do you know they discovered this, they cured this disease? Yes, of course. Some of you take the easier way out. You don't want to take maths and science. Yes.
And what happened to Ebola?
I'll have to give you that answer when we're off camera. Okay, yes. But the Ebola virus, let me tell you, 30 years ago, there was a person who was infected with Ebola. So we knew about Ebola. If we knew about Ebola 30 years ago, what should we have done? We should have come up with the vaccine already then. See, we're not proactive. We're rather reactive. But if we're proactive, yes, and we prepare. So now we know about Ebola, so what must we do? Guess who is working on that vaccine? Americans. They should just ask you a whole lot of questions, America. You need to do that as well. You need to go into these amazing fields like genetics, engineering, and make these differences. Look, I can't ask you if you're going to become teachers. That's my job, to inspire you, to make you think about these amazing things, and it's easy, right? But at the end of the day, you have to make that decision for yourself. Because if you look at human impact that we're going to start now, these are mistakes that we've made, but we were ignorant. We were not informed about the mistakes that we made. But now you, sitting as the future of the country, have to fix up these mistakes. For example, with eutrophication. We have used fertilizers. We have caused most of our places, our rivers, dams, and lakes to be polluted. So how are you? I'm also a type of person who believes, don't criticize, find a solution first. We are too quick to find problems. I would be quick to find the problem and the solution. So for everything that we're going to do, we are in that 5-year drought, South Africa. I won't be surprised if your essay is solutions and strategies to increase water availability. Because you are the future of the country. And if I set a paper, that is exactly what I would ask my grade 11s. Because you must think about the answer. So I'm going to give you a few-minute break, 5 minutes, because now we're going to start human impact. And we're going to talk about global warming and climate change. And don't tell me we're not going to use cars. But you came in your car. We must use more public transport, but you didn't use the Gautrain.
No, it doesn't come together.
It will. Now, it's human impact on the environment, 75 marks in your exam. 25 marks in paper, in matric. Unfortunately, some of you don't revise the symmetric. You think you know it. I want to do, you'll see in my notes, eutrophication, because you did eutrophication in grade 10. But grade 10 was such a blur, you were just so happy it went by very quickly. So I want to explain to you eutrophication, because in every matric exam, they ask you about eutrophication. And then I'm going to ask you, this is a problem that has been created. And who has to solve this problem? You. So I would love to hear your logical ideas. When we mark, and especially me, I mark a logical idea. Right, so if it's what he said just now about the kidney transplant, no, logical ideas. Okay, which we must still come back to the dialysis versus transplant. Okay, I must give you a better answer on that. You must have something substantial to go into your exam and write. So I'm just remind me to put something on. Now, so eutrophication, I'm going to draw a very lovely picture for you on the board. Eutrophication, the problem was our population has been growing. Okay. And the more people there are, there's a greater demand for food. Food first, right? And so we wanted to create, and our staple food is mealies, right? Potatoes as well, right? And so what has happened, we have practiced monoculture. Monoculture is planting the same crop on the same piece of land year after year without giving the land time to restore itself, for the nutrients to replenish itself. And so eventually what has happened, we have depleted all the soil of nutrients, and the soil has become barren. So we tried to make the soil fertile again. So we could not do that, so we've used fertilizer. In the fertilizer are nitrates and phosphates. Why must fertilizers have nitrates and phosphates? Oh, now you're quiet. I said I have lovely questions for you. Yes, hands up.
Yes, ma'am, sort of. Ma'am, are nitrates and phosphates used in the chloroplast to make chlorophyll?
You're asking the question, you're telling me.
I think she's asking the question.
No, not half.
Ma'am, so they're there for
They.
the nitrates and phosphates. Are they part of the nitrogen cycle because nitrogen is an organic molecule and cannot be taken in by the plants as the whole thing, so it has to be made into nitrates.
Okay. Such an amazing question. So none of you know that answer.
Isn't it for the
Whoa! I found one question that none of you know. Shoo. Now everybody's asking, what's the question? Why were you looking at your nails? Right. Nitrates and phosphates are found or help in making proteins. More proteins in the soil, the plant absorbs more proteins, more growth of the plants, more yield. That is why fertilizer will always have nitrates and phosphates. Now, you're not going to remember this for grade 12 because nobody's going to revise grade 10 work. So what must you do? Let's all absorb it together, or you're going to write it down. Now somebody's asking, write what down? How about you write it down? IT. I actually asked this to my grade 10s 3 years ago. And you can imagine how well they did. Yes, very well. So what you're waiting for me to give you an answer. So nitrates and phosphates. Wait, is it not in my notes? I don't think I'm that cruel. Yeah, I'm that cruel. Nitrates and phosphates are found in fertilizer. Nitrates and phosphates are absorbed by the plant. Help the plants to make proteins. Proteins increase the growth of the plants. More plants, more crop. I prefer to use the word greater yield of crop. Where you got stuck there? Protein makes the plant grow more. I should have just written it out for you guys, eh? Okay, I will write it out for you. How about we stop writing now? Okay. All right. You can stop writing now, Hosi. Right. So, let us quickly revise. We learned in grade 10 that proteins are very, very special. Proteins are the only organic compound that contains nitrogen. Nitrates, nitrogen. And you'll also find phosphates as well in nitrates in the proteins. Proteins help the plant grow. So that's why fertilizers will have lots of nitrates and phosphates. Okay. And the plant grows more potatoes, more millies for you, more food. Now, there we have, this is a very, very big problem, eutrophication. I'm sure, you remember eutrophication? Who remembers it? It. You remember the cloud, right? So, what happens is, we add the nitrates and phosphates in the fertilizer, we add it to the soil. And what happens is, the fertilizer gets washed away by the rainwater. When the fertilizer gets washed away, or the nitrates and phosphates from the fertilizer gets washed away, that process is called leaching. The leached water, which has nitrates and phosphates, gets to a nearby water source, river, dam, lake, right? And what happens is, you all know, this is my dam. In the dam, you will always find algae, few algae. So, nitrates and phosphates will stimulate the growth of the algae. And then what happens is the algae covers the entire surface of the water. And that is known as algal bloom. Now, we have water plants in this river, dam or lake, and the algae blocks the sunlight, prevents the sunlight from reaching the plant. No photosynthesis. No photosynthesis, the plant dies. Now, that plant was responsible for producing oxygen. Okay, I'll draw it neatly. My niece says it looks like an infinity sign. That's supposed to be my fish, by the way. Does look like an infinity sign. So, no oxygen for the fish. Fish dies. But, so all the water organisms will die. I can just remember fish only now. Right? Then, when organisms decompose, what will accumulate? Decomposing bacteria. Decomposing bacteria will start breaking down the decomposed fish, plants, and further use up the oxygen. This ecosystem becomes damaged or stagnant. This process is known as eutrophication. All right. Now, as the future of the country, I'm so sorry we have made these mistakes. So can you give me logical solutions to eutrophication? And I suggest we take 2 minutes to think about this. I can't remember your full name, Mash. What's your full name, Mash? Mashiane, okay, sorry.
My grandmother, like when she wants to grow, I don't know, like extra veggies or something in the garden, she uses like peels and sort of old vegetables to fertilize the soil. So couldn't we use that instead?
Yes, that's called a mulch. Yes, very good. A mulch. And now imagine now I want to grow millies. How many hectares you think we grow of millies? How are we going to have so much of fertilizer or mulch? And so lovely, lovely, lovely answer. How are you going to put that into action? Are you going to say in your school, all the boys must bring their, bring their peels? That is a very nice project. Actually, I think we must start off a project like that. Yes, next year I think we must start a project like that. First school to initiate. What? You did it last year. And how much did you collect?
When did we do this? What did we do? When did we do this? Oh, yeah.
But that's a very good idea. Very good idea. Very nice idea. So I feel I will give you a mark for that. I'm feeling, yes, it's fine. I'll give you a mark for that. Future of the country. What are your logical answers?
Instead of planting the planter crops in like vertical rows, vertical rows, it makes the soil erosion more than planted in horizontal, that it doesn't, the runaway doesn't.
No, it's still going to happen, darling. No. Nice try. Nice try. Nice. We'll give you a few minutes to think about it. Okay. Yes. Tell them loudly. Tell them loudly. The problem is the fertilizer.
So can't we just educate farmers that when they plant and they harvest, they should leave the land so that it can...
The population is growing. If I leave that land to restore itself, it might take 3 days. Now imagine if I tell you, sorry darling, you cannot have 3 millies today, you must have quarter of a milli. Yes. You like your food that you eat, that you have access to food all the time. Come, future of the country.
Ma'am, can't farmers plant legumes like with crop rotation? So if you are going to be planting millies, 1 year millies, are there legume plants so the nitrogen is put back into the soil?
How?
Through the nodules, bacteria nodules.
Very good. So we practice crop rotation. Now let me explain that to you because that was grade 10 work, which we know we had a very nice time in grade 10. Yes. So what we do is, I told you the problem was monoculture. So we should practice, not we, farmers should practice crop rotation. So if they have certain hectares of land, half of the land plant millies, which we all love. And then a legume. A legume, you learnt in grade 10, is any plant with a pod. Because in the roots of that plant are nodules. And in that nodule is a nitrogen fixing bacteria. Meaning that this bacteria can turn the nitrogen in the soil into nitrates. And the more nitrates there are, the plants will absorb and grow bigger, and a greater yield we'll have. So, I'm going to just give the example of beans, because the bean is a legume. So, the 1 year is going to plant beans, then millies. These root nodule bacteria will produce a lot of nitrates, and the beans will be beautiful, big. And then what he does is the next year, he plants beans here and millies here. And those millies will have lots of nitrates. Most farmers, what they do is they just harvest the beans. The roots with the root nodules, they plow back into the ground. That is called green manuring. That is another solution. I have to tell you, I asked this 1 year in one of my papers. And one of the learners said, no, do not plant millies and crops. Build a big wall around the crop so that the fertilizer does not leach into a river, dam, or lake. Okay, don't give me those answers, guys. The key word is logical. Logical. All right, so please, we practice crop rotation. Crop rotation with a legume. And legumes have root nodules that produce nitrates. Okay. They have, the nodules have root nodule bacteria, nitrogen fixing bacteria. That's part of the nitrogen cycle, grade 10 work. Then, Mashiane, he said, let's use a mulch, no problem. He's going to start that in his school. That's actually a very good idea. That you have, like how we have bins for recycling paper, we have one for your peels. Yes. What happens to all of that dirt? Eventually goes and forms part of a dump or landfill site, so we can use it. So it's actually very, very good. We just need the initiative. And maybe one of you can be that entrepreneur who goes around and starts collecting all this peels, yes, and make it a mulch, and you can be rich one day. But do you see yourself doing that? You're the future of the country. And the other one is actually you use organic fertilizer. Right, organic fertilizer. And then what we've done now is our seeds are genetically modified. They're already pest resistant, herbicide resistant, so we do not need pesticides, herbicides. We do not need all of this. Right, we do not need to use pesticides, herbicides. They also have the same effect as on eutrophication. And we can make our seeds nutritious, right, with genetic modification. Actually, you can make your seed whatever you want. So genetic modification. You can genetically create the seed that you want. Now, that's a nice thing for the future, but we have this problem. We have all our rivers, dams, and lakes that are filled with algae and are now damaged. And can I tell you something? As we are facing this 5-year drought, that is actually drinking water. We have reduced our drinking water. All it needs is somebody to go in there and just pull out the algae. That's all. So, Monday to Friday you'll be an accountant. Saturday and Sunday you go and you work for the environment. Yes, future of the country. So everybody's looking at me. What is she talking about? I'm going to the movies. That's all it needs. Now, we have this great dam, Hartebeespoort Dam. And the alien plant that has caused the same effect is the water hyacinth. Has formed a thick mat on it, caused the plants to die. And actually you see the fish that are just floating. And has caused a lot of problems for our boatmen because the water hyacinth clogs their boats. But it's a big dam to clear up, eh? That's all it needs. We just need people to go and remove the water hyacinth. Who is going to do that? Not me. Not the future of this country.
But Mom, we do it every Saturday
You do it every Saturday where?
at the Uber Club.
You do it. So you're making your difference. Don't you want to recruit some people? There's about 31 here. So next time you are about to complain that there's no water or there's not enough food and food is too expensive, but you don't complain about it because you don't pay for it. When you start earning money and things get expensive, don't complain. Yes, don't complain. Because organic fertilizer is extremely, extremely expensive. We could just use the normal fertilizer, but you can see what's happening. And that is drinking water. And then now, because we need water, 60% of our water is recycled sewage water. Yes, you should know that. Yes, of course. Yes, you're doing this section now. So you must know that, but we could go and clean up these places. 6%. For now, 6%. Let's see how much. Who said 60? 6. 6, you heard 6. 6. Are you hearing things? Is the clown behind you? It behind you. Okay, so this is... He doesn't even know. Have you watched the movie?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Right, you must go, all of you must, tomorrow you must go and watch the movie as a group. Okay, so now, that is eutrophication. Revision of grade 10 work, very, very important. The question you will be asked in your exam this year or at the matric, how does eutrophication affect the biodiversity? We always take 2 minutes to think about our answer, because first we must know what biodiversity is. And biodiversity is a variety of living organisms. Did I say how it increases or decreases? No, I just said effect. So you will have to tell me that when the fertilizer nitrates go to the river, dam or lake, that the nitrates stimulate the growth of the algae. So eutrophication stimulates the growth of the algae. It's affecting biodiversity, making the algae grow more. But because the algae blocks the surface of the water, what does it do? No sunlight going to the plants will die, affecting the growth of the plants. But no photosynthesis, no oxygen in that water, what dies? All the water organisms and my fish die. What accumulates? Decomposing bacteria. So you have to specifically talk about biodiversity. A question they ask you a lot as well, how does eutrophication affect the quality of water? Write that down. And then this you have to answer on your own, guys. Mashani, you want to ask me a question? Okay, no problem. Which one? Second one. How does eutrophication affect the quality of water? Meaning that this water we cannot drink. Why? There's dead what? There's dead things in there. Yeah. Find the words first. So I say take 2 minutes. Want to answer? No, take 2 minutes. Take 2 minutes. Let somebody else answer. Come. Yeah. Come. You want to try? Will you drink that water? So decomposing bacteria, very, very bad. It's bacteria. It's a microorganism. We don't know what else is in that water. So eutrophication decreases the quality of water. Why? Because the algae grow and the algae cover the water, and all the organisms that have died are obviously being decomposed. For the fact that bacteria in that water makes it unhygienic. We cannot drink that water. Unless some of you like bacteria water, fungus water. Huh? Yes, Tiffany.
May I ask, with all of that, like with everything, I'm not answering the question, side note. With with all of the bacteria and whatever in the water, does it take the nutrients out of the water that we need, like the irons and
It depends on the concentration. Yes.
so it takes it out?
Yes, and it depends on how long the dam has, or river, dam or lake has been exposed to eutrophication. Okay. So, that's another nice question the examiners can ask you. Are we ready now to move on to, we are not allowed to use the word global warming anymore. Right, we are not allowed to. We were told this year in the changes to the exam guideline, you have to use the word climate change. Okay, because the geography people say that the entire globe is not becoming warm, and that is actually true. So when you are writing your answer, please write climate change and in brackets global warming.
Didn't they like disprove global warming? Because there's been 5 ice ages, and to get out of the ice age, the earth has to get hot.
Yeah, but that's greenhouse effect. We are in the period called the enhanced greenhouse effect. Okay, we need the greenhouse effect to survive.
Yeah,
and that's the question I'm going to ask you.
That's what I'm saying, isn't saying global warming natural? We're just making it worse.
We have caused it, actually. All of it is human activity.
Because there have been 5 ice ages, and you're not going to get
No, you are misunderstanding global warming from greenhouse effect. Okay. So don't get confused between global warming and climate change. You must know the difference between greenhouse effect, and we are in the period of the enhanced greenhouse effect. This is something in matric you need to know the difference between. So greenhouse effect, now let's quickly talk about greenhouses. A greenhouse has its glass, green, right, duh, and it has all the optimum concentration of carbon dioxide, water, radiant energy, correct temperature, and that is how you maximize plants grow a lot. You increase the greater yield of crop or plants. And we need the greenhouse effect. We need the greenhouse effect because the earth must be habitable. We must be able to stay here. It must be nice and warm for the plants, right? If not, there was no greenhouse effect, the earth will be a snowball. We go back to an ice age. But the difference is now, we know greenhouse effect, we need a layer of gases. Greenhouse gases. What is the main greenhouse gas? Carbon dioxide. Second, methane. Right. Now, what we have done because of human activity, we have increased the amount of carbon dioxide drastically. We have increased the amount of methane drastically by all our activities. So what has happened you have the earth, there's more greenhouse gases that traps more heat from the sun, and it's getting more warmer. Increased Earth's temperature, and that is resulting in climate change. You are not allowed to use the word global warming. Well, you can use it now. When you get to grade 12, you're going to find out the bad news, that you're not going to get marks for that word. So I prefer if you learn it now. Now we know the problem is carbon dioxide. How is it that we produce so much of carbon dioxide? When we know the cause, we can come up with a solution. So, burning of fossil fuels. No problem, we don't have enough fossil fuels. So we're running out of fossil fuels very quickly. What's the second? Okay, I'm talking about the second source of carbon dioxide. Yes. The second greatest production of carbon dioxide.
Increased amount of livestock.
Okay, you're still not understanding. I said we have a high amount of carbon dioxide. What are the 2 ways in which we, here in this country, are increasing the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere? He said burning of fossil fuels. Yes. Yes. You're going to mime it to me. Transport. Okay, so now we know the 2 problems. What is the solution to this problem? Burning of fossil fuels. Okay, don't say don't burn fossil fuels.
Use other energy.
Alternative sources of energy. What has South Africa initiated? What source? Not solar. My goodness, where have you been all your life? Yes, nuclear power.
Aren't we just getting that?
My goodness, we're building so many power stations. One only, and we're building many more. So every time in June, please pay attention to me, go and become close, just spend some time with your parents today, right? Ask them about how's the water and lights account, the electricity bill. Every year, the electricity goes up by 33%. to accommodate for the building of our power stations, our nuclear power stations. We don't have enough coal. They said before we had about for 30 years. Not for the more we are, the greater we increase in number, the demand on coal increases. So we really need to find that alternative source of energy, and it's nuclear power. Yes, you all have these great ideas of solar. Solar is very expensive initially, right? Wind, great, has to work in a windy place. Wave, great, has to be in a place where you have the sea. How can we initiate wind power and wave power here? So the best is nuclear. But we don't want to hear that. Just say alternative source of energy, because most of the memos say that, alternative source of energy. Now, he said the second problem is transport. What's your solution to that?
Make electronic cars.
Make electronic cars that only certain people can afford. How have you noticed in Pretoria alone the amount of the Gautrain was built, the Ariane buses, all to promote people to use public transport, to decrease our carbon footprint. So we actually have to decrease the amount of cars on the road. So it's an easy solution. How? Ride your bicycle to school. All right, so those are the two main causes of, the two main causes of carbon dioxide. You want to say something? We have to decrease our carbon footprint. How would you do that at home? Do we even do that? Do not charge your cell phone over and over. Charge your cell phone once. Can't. Look at the future of the country. Can't. 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 Once a day. Yes. Yes. Yes, unfortunately it does. The nuclear power has a lot of radiation, and that's why your nuclear power stations must be built away from a residential area. Very, very far. I don't know the legal limits, but very, very far. Okay. Think even further than that. Think further.
In the Mid-Sahara now, 600 kilometers away from Cape Town.
I know, but that's the Coburg one. I'm waiting to hear where the other two they're building right now. Okay, I just haven't researched that. Okay, so you find out for us and tell us how much, how far.
What they're saying, so when we give the solutions, do we actually have to think about how it physically impacts like reality and like humans? Like what you're saying about the nuclear, it's not good, but it is a solution.
Yeah, but what must you do? Can you think of another solution?
No, I can't. But
Yes, and the scientists also cannot. So that's the quickest way. The other thing is that we're going to then we're all going to be in the dark age when there's no coal. So nuclear power stations, yes, of course, use radioactivity, right? Uses uranium, it's radioactive. So the nuclear power stations must be built very, very far away from residential areas. Even the people that work, they will have to wear those big, big, thick suits that you see on movies. But it won't be you guys working there. Yes, because you're going to be working, doing something for yourself. Yes.
And what about biofuels?
Biofuels, well, in Natal, they're already using the methane from the landfill sites. Yes, but KwaZulu-Natal, yes. They are already using the methane. But we will need to do that here in Gauteng. But who's going to do that for us? Who? Nobody. Let's wait for somebody else. Let's wait for the grade 10s of this year. Let them do that. What you making you saying no? But you guys don't want to do it yourself. Right, so yes, biofuels, very good. We can do that. But people must start doing that. And we're going to talk about landfill sites. That is better. And I know in KZN they're using that they're using the methane from the landfill sites for electricity. I mean, for us, I think in Natal they don't have so much load shedding. I think with us we have it regularly. You know, once a month you must have load shedding, and it's when you least expect it. When you're about to write your one paper that you cannot have load shedding, it happens. Yes, we do. We do have. We don't have. Then you must just tell me which areas you live in so we can put in a written query.
Have you like started using a food of some sort as fuel?
Now, I know they're using the biofuels. A fruit, I think we won't use food that we need.
Just
Yeah.
read somewhere that because it will last longer than the coal.
Well, the coal's almost finished. Right, so we need our nuclear power stations very, very quickly. So if you know the cause, then you can come up with the solutions. So you are in the period called the enhanced greenhouse effect. You need to know the difference between the greenhouse effect and the enhanced greenhouse effect. Okay, please make sure you know that. Now, we have also on my notes, we have ways to reduce global warming. Not global warming. Now, what's the correct word? Climate change. Yes, I'm still also slow in changing my notes. Climate change. But if you still cannot pull yourself away from using that word, write climate change in brackets, global warming. Right, remember next year they're not going to use the word global warming. So now let's talk more about, so we have good solutions. I think we have good solutions. Okay, the ozone layer. What? Why is the ozone layer so important to us? To protect the UV rays. Thank you. To protect not us, all living organisms. Yes, not only me, myself, and I, human organisms from the harmful UV rays. Now, unfortunately, the ozone is becoming thinner. There is one way we can fill that hole, and they're trying to use nanoparticles to actually go and close the hole, but we don't know. We can speculate if it's going to work. Now, it's getting hotter and hotter, and more the amount of UV rays is getting stronger and stronger. And you'll notice, but we have technology in our side, so we make a cream that has a higher SPF to protect us. But when the ozone layer becomes thinner and thinner and becomes hotter and hotter, right, what happens is you have certain organisms that can only photosynthesize at a certain temperature, especially phytoplankton. Do you know what a phytoplankton is? Okay, we've all watched SpongeBob. You know plankton? He's actually a phytoplankton. And he's supposed to be transparent, by the way. Right? So, phytoplankton can only photosynthesize at 25 degrees. But climate change, it's not 25 degrees. And the phytoplankton is a photosynthesizer. What does the photosynthesizer do for us? Balances the amount of oxygen and CO2 in the atmosphere. And so now, as climate change occurs, certain organisms cannot. They just don't have the characteristics to be suited to this climate change. So the organisms are becoming extinct. They will die. So the ozone layer is very important for us. It's it's making it hotter. And unfortunately, when it gets very, very hot, what happens is when there's very, very harmful UV rays people are exposed to, which is about 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Don't go tell your teachers you cannot do exercise 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. That's why you must use sunblock and a hat, okay, which all your schools will allow you to use. Now, high amounts of UV rays can also weaken your immune system. And that is actually very, very bad. Think of this June. How many of you got sick? And you took long to get better. And then some of us, we just stayed healthy. Right, so yes, weaker immune systems. Right, so the ozone layer is very, very important to us. It's very important. Now, another question that can be asked a lot, let's quickly skip from the ozone layer, is deforestation. Deforestation is large-scale removal of trees. How can deforestation affect climate change? Yes, we're getting bored now. Nobody said this section was so exciting. Now you see, as you're sitting right now and you're falling asleep, that's exactly what might happen to you next year. And this section counts 25 marks in your matric exam. And that is why nobody has got 100% for life science, because of this section. Because sometimes we think, we know it, we know what to write, and then you don't get full marks for a question. And these are the questions that come out a lot. So deforestation, trees absorb the carbon dioxide for us by photosynthesis. Trees are also carbon sinks. Now if we cut on the trees, what happens? There's too much of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which will increase, which will cause climate change, which will lead to an increase in the enhanced greenhouse effect. Okay, that's a question they ask all the time. What are some of the effects of global warming?
Melting of the ice caps.
Melting of the ice caps, we don't care. Because you don't live by the sea. You don't care. Yes? It's not going to affect you. Droughts, floods, desertification. And if areas, natural disasters. I said floods. Okay, floods in brackets, natural disasters. So decrease food production, decrease food security. We must rather use that word, decrease food security. Yes?
Is it possible for, like, let's say all the ice caps melt and then like it completely floods like all of
You're watching too much Ice Age. I know it doesn't melt so quickly. I think every year at the end of the world. You're asking me to speculate. No. From what I know, the ice caps melt and the sea level only increases by 2 millimeters. Yeah. Not a lot, exactly. So by the time we get to 100, it means no. But we don't know what can happen. Okay, at the end. Let's hope at the end we all not around. Can you all swim? We all can swim. That's good. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't affect us. See, ice melting of the ice caps. We don't live near the sea. It's not going to affect us. Right? So, yes, what will affect us is desertification. Right? Which the hotter it becomes. And then obviously removal of natural vegetation. As the population is growing and growing and growing, what is happening? We need to provide food. So we remove natural vegetation to plant millies. We need to clear out land to keep the human beings that we have now entertained. So we have to build malls for them. I mean, look at the amount of malls that have come up over the few years. Right? And you all have to go to all these new malls. So we remove natural vegetation. Now, the roots of these plants hold the topsoil. And we know that the topsoil has humus, the layer with the most amount of nutrients. Now, if I remove the natural vegetation and I plant I just leave it for barren, the topsoil can be washed away. No nutrients for the plant. Next time I want to plant millies, what happens? I might not have a great yield of millies. And eventually, the more and more I use the land can become barren and eventually turn into a desert. That's desertification. So that is our problem we are facing. Well, that's because of climate change. What are we going to do? What's your solutions to all of these problems? There is a solution. We have to cut down on the amount of carbon dioxide. And it's come to a stage where it's becoming very, very serious now. We really have to decrease the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. If each one of us does something, makes a change, then we can. You see, that I've already done my job. Educate.
Ma'am, what could you go above and beyond?
So what will you do? What can you do yourself? And let's be realistic and something that you can actually do. Don't say, I'm not going to charge my cell phone, and you go home and you charge your cell phone. Yes? Yes, and I only have 5 minutes to answer it.
And then, what type of plant, should I say, absorb the most carbon dioxide?
Oh, yes, there was this, is there not a plant? Shoo. No. See, now I actually forgot. There's a new thing in place. There's certain materials that can absorb a lot of carbon dioxide. I will go research more about it. Did anybody hear about it? Yes. Speckworm, but I also know there's a material. I read about it somewhere, and now I can't remember what material it is, that we can use to actually absorb large amounts of carbon dioxide. Now we need to go and research it. Yes, you have to go use your internet when you go home. You have to go use your electricity. Use the internet for the good it was created, not Instagram. Okay, so you will all go and find out for me today. Today your homework is ways in which carbon dioxide can be decreased. And there is this material. We can talk about the speckworm tomorrow, and I want the name of that material. It has just slipped my mind. Yes.
So if we were to maybe
Right. Shh.
at hospital, right? Like when parents give, when people give birth to babies, we give them each a seed of that tree so that they can plant, so that for each baby born, that tree is active.
Yes, it's a nice idea. That's something you can do. That's something we can do. So she says, okay, we don't have to go worry about hospitals now. We have to wait for you to get to that hospital. How about you can start planting a tree? Not you. You must go. Get a plant, a small little plant, plant it for every year. How's that? We will have lots of trees. Okay, grade 8. Now we must start our own project. McWilliam, plant a tree. Yes.
Before she answered, I wanted to ask, does it actually work? With us planting the tree, does it actually work? Because I mean, like a seed's going to grow 10 years from now, it's going to be this big.
You must remember, we have to use resources sustainably. We must worry about the future generation. So it's fine if you plant the tree now. It will still be around for the future. That's more important. Right, so what legacy are you going to leave? So, plant a tree. Okay, I can see you're already restless. I can see you already in tuned to 2 hours. That's amazing. Okay, so tomorrow you got homework. Ways to decrease, not ways in which the future or scientists, you as a teenager can decrease the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. You can make the change, and let's hopefully you will do that. You will give your phone away to your parents when you are studying. You will do the world a favor, South Africa a favor. Right, now please just pay attention. Tomorrow we will just carry on. I want to do thermal pollution quickly. I want to talk about just the important things that come up, water availability, right, alien plants, and then I want to bring some matric questions that we can answer together, right? Because tomorrow is our last day together. No shame, I'm sure. Right, you can see the grade